couple of years ago, I made one decision. I stopped chasing pleasure, I stopped giving in to urges, and I started to take real control of my life. And since then, I won my first boxing fight, I ran a marathon, I started building business ventures that I'd been putting off for years prior to that, and I moved to Thailand to train Muay Thai and pursue a life that I'd been dreaming about for years and years before that. My relationship with God became closer and stronger than it's ever been. My confidence grew, my energy changed, my focus became sharper. But here's what most videos about semen retention get completely wrong. It wasn't the simple act of retention that actually changed my life. It was what the retention forced me to become. Because if you think you can just suddenly stop that act and then sit on your sofa scrolling TikTok for 8 months, that you're going to become successful, then I can assure you, I can promise you that you're going to be very disappointed. That is not how this works. But today I'm going to tell you exactly what happened on my journey. No myths, no superpowers, just my honest experience. I think semen retention gets talked about, especially on YouTube, in the wrong way. People argue over whether it's placebo, whether testosterone changes, whether your voice changes, whether women become magically attracted to you all of a sudden. And honestly, I think they're asking the wrong question. I know they're asking the wrong question. The real question is, who is it that you actually become when you stop chasing instant gratification all the time? Because that's what honestly changed everything for me. You have to realize that God created us as flesh and spirit, and that every urge becomes a choice, and every choice builds identity. Identity changes behavior, and behavior changes your future. So just because the flesh has an urge, it doesn't mean that you have to act on that. And once you become that man that just stops acting impulsively on his urges all the time and can actually have that self-discipline, that self-control, you can start redirecting that energy into other avenues of your life that are actually going to become something meaningful, something worthy. For me, what I realized on 240 days of semen retention is that the energy, that life force energy that you have, has to go somewhere. If it's not being wasted, then it can be redirected. I suddenly wanted to train harder in the gym. I wanted to work harder. I wanted to pray more. I wanted to read more. I wanted to create more, to move more, to build more, to just do more meaningful things with my life. It's almost as if your body refuses to stay still, and not in a bad, anxiety-inducing way where you can't sit down for 5 minutes. You literally have this energy inside of you that needs to be utilized into meaningful and purposeful things in your life so that you can help yourself and then help others as well. Now, I don't know whether that's psychological, spiritual, or maybe a combination of both. I believe it probably is a combination of both. And that is something that I experienced, and I believe many other men have done the same as well. That's why it's described as life force energy. It's not because like magic suddenly happens in your life and everything just instantly changes. It's because you stop leaking this energy into bad habits that just leave you feeling empty and unfulfilled. Before I went on this journey, I had ideas, I had goals, I had plans, but I could tell deep down that I wasn't fully committed. And then slowly, over the time of the duration of that season, everything started changing. I signed up for my first ever boxing fight and trained really hard for 8 weeks. I went to every session, I was running in between sessions, I was going to the gym still and lifting weights, I was eating clean, I was focused, I was sharp, and I won my fight. I started training for a marathon, and later on, a few months later, I went on to do it in the time that I had visioned for myself way before I started the training of doing it in, which was 4 hours and 30 minutes. And that, for me, was a huge achievement, because before that, I had never been a long distance runner. I started business ventures that were going to pay off later down the line. I moved countries. I'm now living in Thailand, training Muay Thai, focusing on these different avenues of my life that will continue to bear fruit from my labour. I'm growing this YouTube to help more people. I'm becoming more consistent. I'm reading scripture, reading the Holy Bible, getting closer to God. Everything just starts to feel like life is gonna work out. It's like pointing you down this path that God has created and intended for you to be on. And that's where your destiny is. It's along this path. And personally, I believe that one of the biggest benefits that no one really talks about in this space is self-respect. You tend to see it a lot online of people using clickbait to try and say that they manifested their dream girl or whatever from this practice. But one of the biggest things that you actually gain from it is self-respect, because every time you resist an urge, every time that you keep a promise to yourself, it builds trust in yourself. And eventually you walk differently, you speak differently, you hold your head high walking down the street, you look people in the eye, speak with conviction. And this isn't because retention just randomly, suddenly, magically gives you confidence, but it's the self-discipline that does. God has not designed us to live as slaves to our impulses, to our urges. One of the fruits of the Spirit is self-control. And when I started practicing it intentionally, I noticed that I became more patient, more present, more grateful. My prayers became more intentional. My mind became quieter, more focused, so much more clarity, sharper in everyday life. And one of the biggest things, especially for young men, is that I wasn't constantly fighting that guilt, that inside guilt that you feel on a daily basis when you act on an urge that you know you shouldn't be. That disappears. And honestly, that in itself, that loss of fighting that guilt each day, is life-changing. I finally felt like I was becoming the man that God had intended for me to become. So if you've clicked on this, if you're watching this thinking that maybe semen retention is some sort of magical life hack, and if I just do it for a month, then I'll get my dream life, then I think you're asking the wrong question. The real question is, who could you become? What man could you become if you stopped letting these impulses control your life? For me, those 8 months were not just about avoiding a bad habit. It was about building a different man. And when the man changed, everything else in my life started changing as well. Now, recently I have been getting quite a few questions through my socials about how did I actually do this? What habits did I actually build? How did I become this disciplined? How did I actually finally become consistent with it and not veer off track? And that's why I created the Elite Habits Blueprint. This is the framework that I wished someone had handed me years ago when I was stuck in these repetitive looping patterns of life that just led nowhere. Everything that's helped me mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally is in the Elite Habits Blueprint. So if this did resonate with you, then I genuinely think this will help you out. I'll link it in the comments below, and I appreciate you watching. As always, I will catch you in the next video.